help her out here. Okay, so we're going back in. Did somebody raise her hand or his hand?
Michelle did.
Michelle did.
Okay.
I did.
All right. So here we're going to go back in, and I am going to just take it over again. So Elizabeth, I'm just going to direct it again. Well, Elizabeth, I'm sorry. I'm really struggling here because did you see Lachelle's earrings? Like they were like these big, gigantic earrings, and I am certainly not suggesting anything other than that they were ghetto. Like I can't think of another word to use. And I'm not trying to be offensive. Like and I'm sorry you feel offended. And I hope Lachelle didn't think that I was being offensive.
And then I might ask, do you know the origin of that word, or are you sure you're using it in the correct context? And I would ask her that ghettos were originally referred to were Jewish immigrants. Oh, I would say, do you know the origin of that word, or do you even know if you use the right context?
Right.
Well, I don't. Ghetto. Yeah, like I'm.
Right.
The
So
ghetto.
have you heard your students say it in a slang and you're just repeating something you heard, but as an educator, you want to use the words correctly. So a ghetto is during early European immigration, and Jews lived in neighborhoods in cities, and those were called ghettos when they were overcrowded. So you might want to be a bit more sensitive in the language that you're choosing, or to a student, you may not want to outright comment on how something is your view of it, but what might not be okay for you is certainly okay for them.
I guess I understand now. I'm not. I've certainly. I mean, I've heard about the Warsaw ghettos, right? I just didn't. And yeah, I've heard the kids talk about ghetto. So maybe it would be better for me to.
Yeah, and a more important issue is your perception of your students. So if you perceive them to be from a ghetto, are you treating them differently or interacting with them differently than a student from a suburb or a city or a rural area? So the goal is, fairness with our students. So our words matter and mean a lot to them. So we should be careful what we say, how they interpret it, think about their feelings.
I appreciate that. Awesome.
I'm glad we're learning together.
Yeah. The one thing I just need somebody to mute. I'm not sure if maybe it's me, but okay. What do other people think? What are some other things that might be helpful to me using that kind of language? Kenneth.
I think about my first thought is, so what? You may think her earrings are ghetto. So what? She likes them. And what's wrong with the ghetto anyway? So what? She's proud of where she's from. She has confidence. She's wearing what she's wearing. What's the problem with it? And if the kid has confidence and wearing what she's wearing what she thinks looks nice, then back off. Stop judging her. Let her be who she is. Let her be where she's from. Let her be from where she's from. And secondly, how do you know where she got them from?
Kind of like what
you back off. Leave her alone. Let her be who she is and stop judging her. And let her be a confident student. And who's to say that ghetto is a bad thing anyway?
Which it isn't, right? We understand what, and of course, I obviously do know that
and that was what was key to me. For as someone said, Lachelle said, it may have been used in relationship to a Jewish community, but I think I would come straight forward and say in the African American community, it is taking on a negative connotation. Sure. And the words that you use were very negative. So you associate the words you use were negative. And so I would come straight forward and have that discussion also, in that you are utilizing, employing the negative connotations about African Americans living in ghetto. It has taken on a negative connotation in relationship to African Americans.
Yes, Regina, I totally hear that. And I think when I first saw that, that's exactly what I thought. We know that that's code word for something bad, right? It's directed at Black people.
Absolutely.
The one thing I would ask you all was, Sue, if that were you and someone said, you are, why are you using those words? How would you react, right? Do you want to be in a position, right, where you're having a courageous conversation, but not being, and you want your message to be heard, right? You don't want to be antagonistic to poor little me, because I could be in a position where I would be like, well, I am not racist, and I don't, yes, call in versus call out. I like that, Kimberly. And I see Erica, go ahead. And I wanted to try and see if we could squeeze in one more, but go ahead.
I just wanted to comment, especially when you said, considering this other person who may feel so offended that you would come at them or call them out, but why not just say what you mean about your feelings and express your opinion, instead of using a label, probably incorrectly, to try and describe something, especially when that label pertains to a stereotype that you might have of a group of people. So just say what you mean.
So you're telling me to say what I mean. What do I mean?
Yeah, like if you say, oh, I think her earrings look ugly and gaudy and cheap, first of all, what does your opinion of the value of her jewelry matter anyway? And why would you feel the need to express that, first of all? And second of all, why would you use a label to try and summarize your feelings instead of say exactly what you feel, which, I think people use labels to excuse themselves and to think that they're describing something larger than to actually just say, oh, I think she looks really cheap and gaudy. And, that's hurtful.
Agreed. Doug, you were going to say something?
I would also, ditto to what everyone else has said, I would also maybe mention the fact that this word in particular and words like it have an impact on people, and talk about what the impact is when I heard it, which would be, one, it's insulting to the child, which is bad enough. Two, it's insulting to Blacks, which is even, just as bad. And three, it makes if the person doesn't realize it, it's helpful to say that in a way so that the person has the chance to learn instead of feeling accused.
Yeah. Yes. That person has the opportunity to learn instead of being accused. I think that's that's a really important point, and a good point. We've got about 7 minutes. You guys want to do another one? All right. So I need another person to be a colleague. So let me get my screen back up here. No, you're done. Oh, I didn't mean to end it. Oh. Hold on. Oh, it went away. That's not what I wanted to do.
I didn't know what to say. Last week at a staff meeting, the principal told us some students from nearby trailer park would be attending a different school next year. Some teachers cheered. I didn't know what to say.
All right. Thoughts on that one? These are your colleagues. Woo! Trailer park trash gone. Yay! Who wants to take it on? Yes! Woo!
Does that excite you that we're losing students and an opportunity to educate and help some of our students learn? Why excited to a group of students?
What are you talking about? You know that those kids bring down our scores. And why are you jumping down my throat? You know this, Chrissy. You know this.
Well, have you had an opportunity, how many, do you know these students? Do you know we're going to be losing? Have you investigated the number of students or specifically the names of the students that we're going to be losing because of this redistricting?
I don't think it matters, Chrissy. And again, I don't understand why you're being so hostile to me. You know that those kids bring down our scores. They don't come to school anyway. It would just be better if they moved on to a different school. And I'm frankly offended by your tone to me. Why are you being so aggressive towards me?
Well,
I want what's best for our school too.
I'm bothered, Stephanie, that you're feeling this way about students. If we're here to help our students and to educate them, then we need to keep all of the students that we have. Would you be willing to dig through some of the data with me to investigate which students we're going to be losing and the impact that is going to have on us, both potentially good and potentially bad? I suspect that we have some students in that group that are going to be leaving that are actually students that you probably have a relationship with, and they're going to miss you.
Okay, time out. One second, Chrissy. Good. Excellent. Can I get somebody to echo? Can I get an echoer? I'm not sure that's a word, but let's have an echoer for Chrissy. I don't know. I don't know if I really want to do that. You really hurt me, Chrissy, like just the way you came at me. And I just want what's best for the school too. Doug?
Stephanie?
Yes.
So I actually had something like this happen to me a long time ago when I was teaching at a school up in Germantown, Maryland. And what I would say is, I've taught some of these kids, and I really enjoyed teaching these kids because they haven't had the same opportunities as everyone else. And if you're attentive to them and that you show that you care about them, they respond the same way other kids do too. They appreciate what we do if you let them know that you care about them.
Thanks, Doug. Anybody else? I appreciate that.
Again, I would say, Stephanie, I hear you. I understand how you feel. I have several concerns. Again, that is a different conversation. But in my experience, when we've heard about trailer park, the third word is trailer park trash. And I believe that, and I support you, that we don't want to use those words in regards to our students, because one, if we're using them in private, we more than likely will use them in public, and that will hurt the students. I believe it will be very hurting. And two, usually my experience is that our behavior, really, we walk the talk. So what we say is those actions are going to show up also, and which would perhaps result in us treating the students unfairly. So Stephanie, I'm willing that if we're in another public place, to echo. If you agree with me, you understand what I'm saying, then I think that this is an area we need to work to educate our staff on, our faculty.
You mean you're echoing Chrissy, right? Because I'm the one who said the trash. I called her trash.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. How about this? How about I'm just gonna be like, yeah, Chrissy, I agree with you. And I would sit down with Stephanie, me and the other Stephanie. I would sit down with both of you to look at the data. I think that would be very helpful to everyone. How about anybody thoughts about that?
I don't even think it's about the data. I mean, part of this, the children are leaving, and that's always sad. Friendships are going to be broken up from those children and the children that they've established relationships with. You know,
I would agree with you, Cynthia. I also don't think the data is what it is, but Stephanie went to the data. So I was trying to dig into that with her. She said, you know, these kids aren't good for our school. They bring our scores down. That's why I went to data.
yeah.
I'm clarifying my thinking and why I went in that direction, because I believe that there is I know there is. I teach in Anne Arundel County on Fort Meade base, and we pull from Section 8 housing, and we have large number of students that live in trailer parks. We have many homeless students as well. So there is a stigma around groups of students that are coming from lower income housing. And trailer parks are generally grouped in that group of lower income housing students. And there is often a stigma that comes with it. Those students are not coming to school as prepared. They don't, you know, that they don't produce the scores and so on and so forth. But it is important for educators, for teachers to know that that's not always the case. It's not the case. They have many very talented children that come from financially struggling homes, and it for someone who is like Stephanie did, they're pulling our scores down. I think that as racist, or where I'm trying to be as anti-racist as I can be, as I'm learning in this, but I think it's important to call that out and be willing to say, we need to fix that. We need to fix that mentality. We need to point out that that's not the case. And I feel as if I need to give Stephanie that hardcore evidence, so that I break down that of her walls, and she can no longer stand that idea of they're no good for us. They don't have any decency. If I can negate that, what she considers a fact, if I can negate with evidence, then she has to change her language. She has to change her thinking. That's my thought process. Mm-hmm. So talk back with me about that. If you disagree, or if you agree, I'm all open for disagreement.
That's okay. I'm thinking in my head, what if the data does bear out that the scores are lower? Whether the scores are lower or whether they're higher, that's such a small, there's so much richness, and we're here as anti-racist educating because life is unfair to certain peoples. They've had more obstacles to overcome. So I would be like, well, what's the problem with what we're doing if there's inequities in achievement? Not that there's anything wrong with what they're doing.
That would be my thought also, because I think the data may bear that out, but is it a result of systemic racism? Is it a result of what we're doing as educators because of our perception? Are we not creating the high standards? Are we not challenging the students? Are we not creating a safe environment where they can perform? So all of those questions come to bear for me.
Well, and especially if people are cheering because they're leaving, I think that screams, we got a problem here.
Right, right. So I want to hear some, go ahead, Michelle.
Self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah. I think
That's what it screams to me.
It makes me think about, the question of, are we here for all students? Not just affluent students or students from certain neighborhoods. You're cheering because these kids are leaving. I thought we were here for all kids, no matter the test scores, no matter their level. We're here to teach them. It's our job to do that. That's where I'd start with her.
I like, Kenneth, also how you said right? Like, these are, to interrupt is, we have to know that we have to take on the ownership, right? It's about, I'm thinking this, I'm thinking, what are you thinking, right? The reason why I felt like it was important for me to get defensive, because in my experience, I taught in Milwaukee for 9 years. I had colleagues who said things like that, like, these kids, and I'd say, wow, that's very hurtful to me as someone who comes to school every day. And they'd say, what do you mean, Stephanie? I'd say, well, I thought that they were our kids. We're here every day. What do you think? Right? So making sure that we're attaching this to ourselves, we're interrupting, we're asking those questions. Jody, you had a comment.
Well, I thought in this scenario, your pushback to the person calling you out was way more realistic than in the first scenario, where you were so super nice to take in her suggestions and be so kind at how you didn't want to hurt her feelings and you didn't mean it. And I thought, when this second scenario, that pushback is, to me, the more the reality of what you see. People are like, brushing it off like, no, I didn't mean it like that, and
I meant it like that.
Yeah, it's still not okay, right? So
we have about, I'm sorry, we have about 4 minutes left. So I just wanted to say that. Go ahead, Jody. I did not mean to interrupt.
No, I was just gonna say, if that were true in a staff meeting, my principal, I think, would call that out in a second. So you need that whole community, like you need everybody to come together and probably sign that person up for the next committee who's going to look at testing standards and make sure that they're not biased. So
you brought out an interesting point just then. So let's just say the principal did say something to your colleague, to me, right? Stephanie, I'm really surprised by what you said here. Would you be more inclined or less inclined to echo back?
I think people would be more inclined to echo back if it came from somebody who was in a leadership position. And conversely, if they don't call it out, it makes people more uncomfortable, I think. I think it's really important that leadership get on board with what needs to be the way things should be. So they need to learn about that.
Erica and then Doug.
I think if the principal was the first one to address it, people might be like, oh, thank goodness, the principal took care of this. I don't have to say anything or do anything. So sometimes, we are such like an authority-driven society sometimes that we're like, oh, the person at the top is going to take care of it. I can just, sit this one out. I think it's an important reminder for all of us that even if it is being addressed somewhere, we as individuals can also echo that and also stand for it, no matter how many people are up there standing for it as well. There can never be enough voices advocating for what's right.
Well, and sadly, often people jump in to support the person who's making the negative comments. And that can be a very toxic environment to have to be in.
Doug?
Yeah, ditto. I was going to add, I think if the principal didn't do something, I would want to go talk to the principal immediately and say, that really bothered me. I hope it bothered you too. why don't, the two of us or anyone else who wants to, say something at the next meeting so that people know that this bothered us.
Right.
And that way, it does help to have the principal say it, but it helps for the principal to know and to have other people saying it at the same time. So folks aren't like, oh, he's just doing that because he has to, or she's doing that because she has to, whatever. But yeah, I mean, hopefully the principal would say something right away, and I would try to echo that in that meeting itself.
Yeah, I would hope
I
so
think
too.
I think this is where that courage comes in at, from what you guys are saying, that it takes courage when you're sitting there and someone is wrong, number one. Number two, you should say something, and you kind of know what you should say, but then all of that lines up to that wall or that door of courage. It's like, are you going to open that door of courage and step out? And if you do, are you going to be the only one to do it, or are your colleagues going to have your back and give you that echo?
Yep. Stand up, speak out. Someone will have your back. We have about 45 minutes. Thank you so much for your
Seconds.
What's that? Seconds, yes, not minutes. Thank you for your participation and your comments and
Thank you.
Your honesty. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I know
Those were good examples.
Oh, yes,
Great-
teaching
great-
tolerance.
Great moderating.
I'm sorry?
I said good moderating. And good,
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, I think we're good. They're gonna kick us back pretty soon here. No?
Kenneth, I just wanted to say, I wrote down what you said, open that door of courage and step out. I think that's such an important one-liner that we can use to remind
Ooh,
ourselves.
yeah. Bring that up when in the full group if you can.
Sure.
They said 1 minute, so I can't. If I leave the room, I'll leave the room. But all right. Oh.
Stephanie, I think if you leave,
I'm
it'll send us
leaving.
all
Yeah,
back.
that's what I'm doing
Yeah.
right now. Bye.